Okay, lights on. Good morning, everybody. It's nice to be here, and I guess you should say what a great day for a revolution to start. I don't know. Maybe we'll see, right? We'll find out more about it today. Thank you very, very much for coming here today, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jim Wunderman, not just the guy in the movie, but the guy who I think inadvertently got this talk going about the possibility of really reforming the state and utilizing the citizens' power of calling a constitutional convention to get this going. And so many of the people in this room have responded to that and talk about it in a moment. But you've come from all over the state, from all walks of life, and I just want to thank you. If you'd give yourselves a round of applause for taking time out of your busy schedules and lives to be here. Thank you very much. This is a very important day. If you take a look at your agendas, you'll see we have a list of several or many of the partners who we've had who've helped put this together. As I said in the short movie, and thank you Jim Gonzalez and Associates for putting that film together on short notice. That this is really about you. And it's about California, and it's not about me, and it's not about the Bay Area Council in any way. The only way that we make these kind of major reforms happen in California, if we, in a great moment in time today, when it's needed the most, if we come together. And seeing you here today, this morning, gives me hope, and I know it does the same for you. That we're beginning to make that happen. I also, I'm the CEO and president of the Bay Area Council, which is a business-sponsored group in the Bay Area, which many of you know about, and a lot of our members are here, and my chairman, Lenny Mendonça, is here from the Bay Area Council, and I'm going to introduce him next. But I want to thank my organization for your support. Some people have questions about what business's role is, and I'm going to talk about it a little more, but I can tell you on behalf of my organization, the Bay Area Council, and some of the other business groups here, you're talking about businesses that care about this state, they care about their people, and they care about their future, and they're committed to doing something about it. I'm very proud to run this historic organization. Now, I have to tell you, I feel a little funny about being here. This wasn't part of the plan. We're kind of a business group, and so we have a plan. And the plan did not have overhauling California government in it when we wrote it last year. You have to. They tell you you're supposed to be proactive in life, but sometimes you have to react too. And certainly we didn't expect to see some of the problems at these levels that we saw that led us to this moment. Just so you understand the story and how at least I got here, we, like many organizations, like probably many of yours, held our legislative day up in Sacramento last August. We scheduled it for August for good reason, because that way the budget would be solved and we'd be working on the kinds of things the Bay Area Council typically works on, not overhauling state government from top to bottom, but things like our education system, our K-12 system, our infrastructure in our region, our water policy, energy policy, our physical environment, our business environment, which we think is critical. And so those are the things we plan to work on and talk about, and we had some bills that we sponsored and other folks sponsored that we want to talk to legislators about. So we went up to Sacramento. We brought about 40 business leaders to the table that day, and we didn't have any of those conversations because the legislature was stuck in the budget dialogue, which at that point it wasn't the longest delay in history, but it was looking like it could be. Both sides were completely stuck in the mud and so forth. And so it was frustrating. It was very frustrating for the members of the council who were there. It was equally frustrating for the legislators who, one by one came before us and said, this isn't why I think I got elected. I came from the city council somewhere, or mayor somewhere, or school board, and with high hopes of doing something about the problems I experienced at the local level, only to come up to Sacramento and find out I can't do anything up here. Nothing is happening, and I'm frustrated about it. And so, that was the feeling that permeated the room, and I was a little embarrassed. I mean, I'm running an organization, and my members pay dues, and we're supposed to be effective. We're supposed to get things done. We're supposed to move the ball forward, and instead, I had to sort of explain to people, because not all of, a lot of them are CEOs of companies. They don't understand that it could be like this. In fact, they have a tendency to think about what they saw in terms of their own companies, and they recognized that if their own management team, if their own board of directors was so stuck in place without being able to make a decision, their business would likely be out of business pretty darn quick. So as we went through the day, there was one thing we heard that kind of stuck in our mind. One of the legislators said to us, and I think he'll be here later, he said, he had run into another rather cynical legislator. I won't mention his name, but he's the former president of the California State Senate recently. And he may be here later, too. He said, Mark, maybe it's time we just throw up our hands and hold a constitutional convention. So when we got back to the Bay Area, we kind of did a little research, and people talked about it a little bit, and we found a little bit about the history of the Constitution of California and constitutional conventions here and in other states and the potential application and a little legal stuff, and just enough to think, this is interesting. And being so frustrated, we decided, why not write a piece about it to sort of see what people think. So we penned an editorial, which the San Francisco Chronicle was kind enough to print 2 days later, and it said something like, our government is broken. And, since we're in the public policy business, op-ed pieces and things like that, they're sort of part of the litany of, what one does when we're trying to sort of influence people's thinking. So we write them on a variety of different subjects, all important subjects, all very well-written articles and things people should respond to. And most of the time, if I'm lucky to get a few friends and, old acquaintances who might read it and send me an email or something. But this was really different. And a lot of people who are in this room today, old friends, new friends, people I've had great respect for but never met or maybe had worked with a little bit on an issue here and there, started calling me, sending me notes saying, Jim, this is really important. You really hit on something here. The state is in deep trouble. The future is bleak if we don't act. This is the time. Are you serious? Can you do something? Well, as I said, this wasn't in the plan. But we're business leaders. We're a leadership group, like many of your groups, or your leadership within your own areas. And so there comes a moment when you say, well, maybe this is the time. And so we made the decision right at that point to keep going and follow it up. And so we started making some more phone calls to some of the people, responding and so forth. We started to do some legal research. What is the constitutional convention all about? Maybe see if we could flesh out some early supporters, talk to some of the newspapers, things like that. And we found a lot of interest in this. Well, why shouldn't there be interest in this? All we think about is the future of our state, the future, in our case, the future of the Bay Area, but could be any region of the state. And we understand the things it's going to take if we're going to be able to present the kind of place that's going to remain attractive, that's going to bring in jobs, that's going to present a quality of life that we kind of took for granted. How many people in this room were raised in California? Raise your hands if you were raised. And so I think maybe most, but how many of you came here from somewhere else? How many of you came from another? So maybe an equal amount, 50-50. 50% of the people in the room actually came to California in search of that dream, and the other half of you were lucky enough to be born into it, like my kids were. And so here we are, and we are all recognizing our education system, which was a blessing, creator of the greatest university system in the country, emulated across the country, a K-12 system that was rated to be first or second in the country, not even 30 years ago, has fallen by most ratings to be in the very bottom, maybe 49th, according, I don't know, I don't even know how they rate these systems, but I think all would agree, fallen far from grace. We've got a water system which, if we had a moderate earthquake, which is predicted with great confidence by those who predict such things, USGS and UC Davis and other folks like that, would probably disassemble the levee system that provides the conveyance of water for 2/3 of Californians. Forget about agriculture and how we produce our food and so forth. And so we have a prison system that is overloaded and is in the hands of a federal judge, a panel of which said just a couple of weeks ago that their plan is to release tens of thousands of prisoners in